welcome back to Movie Review Mom. And if this is your very first time visiting my channel, yay, you found me. I'm so glad. Be sure and subscribe and ring that little bell and it'll notify you every time I upload a new video, which is almost every day. I do movie reviews and trailer reactions. And my goal is to give you the heads up on filmmaking quality as well as content, so you can make the best decision for you and your family as to whether or not you want to watch a particular movie and spend your time and money really watching that movie. Okay, so what's the movie I'm reviewing today? Well, it is called Vanquish. This movie is currently in theaters and on video on demand, and it'll be available on Blu-ray and DVD April 27th, 2021. The movie is rated R. It's an hour and 36 minutes, and I'll share my movie review mom grade that I'm going to give it at the end of the review. However, I think you're going to be able to tell where my grade is headed. First, I'm going to give you an overview in a nutshell. I'll point out some things that I liked and didn't like, as well as tips for parents, themes worth talking about, and even some movie recommendations for other movies that I think you might like if you like this one, or maybe ones that you might like better than this one. All right, let's dive in. Actually, before we dive in, let me remind you that if you click on the link below in the description, I've got a special discount on Amazon Prime if you want to watch the movie there to save you a little bit of money. I'm trying to save you some money here and time. All right, so in a nutshell, the story is about a mother who tries to put her dark past as a Russian drug courier behind her. Yes, she has a certain set of skills, but a retired and crooked cop forces her to do his bidding by holding her sick daughter hostage. Dun, dun, dun. What's a mother to do? Now, director George Gallo actually has done some fantastic movies in the past, most notably Bad Boys, probably his biggest hit. So this movie is a little bit surprisingly disappointing. It's just not quite up to par. And in the film industry, we call that below the line work. I'm not sure exactly what happened. So let me point out the things I liked and didn't like and see if we can unravel why this movie didn't work when it should have. Because first of all, one of the things that I like is that it has Morgan Freeman. Who doesn't love Academy Award winner Morgan Freeman? If he's in a movie, I'm pretty much going to watch it because I really like him. And he usually is in really great movies. So I was kind of surprised that he would take on such a role in this kind of a mediocre movie. And to give you an example, he utters pretty lame lines from his wheelchair, like "get out of there," or "don't pass out," or "turn right." He looks extremely bored pretty much during the entire movie, which is kind of weird, right? It reminded me a lot of Bruce Willis. I don't know if you've been paying attention. I love Bruce Willis, but he's pumped out at least 3 movies in the last year or two that are just duds. And I just think, really, is he that hard up for money, or is he just, you know, helping some friends out, or does he owe some favors? I'm not sure what's going on there either. So that part of the movie is definitely disappointing. Then the movie also has Ruby Rose. And if she's in something, I tend to watch it because I've always really liked her. I think she's got this really uber cool, chic, edgy, feminine look. So I just like her, even though I recognize she's not the greatest actress in the world. And in this movie, I wish she hadn't shaved all of her hair off. I like it if it's, you know, kind of short and sassy, but she's almost completely bald. And I was like, really? Do you have to do that? I mean, it's a look, I guess. This is the very first time I've heard her with an Australian accent. So I thought that was interesting. She still looks cool and her motorcycle is super cool. And I can tell she's trying really hard. I think the movie poster that illustrates both of them in it is actually pretty dang cool and intriguing, really. I like that the weapons behind Ruby Rose kind of have a V shape, you know, V for Vanquish, as well as angel wings. And so it makes you wonder, is she an angel, or is anybody else in this movie an angel that we don't know about? I don't want to give you any spoilers. There's a tension building soundtrack that kept me engaged, although there are some like ringtones that you hear. And the whole time I kept looking around like, is my phone going off? And it's actually part of the soundtrack, which was one of the things I didn't like about the movie. But back to the things that I did like, there are some artsy camera shots, but back to the things I didn't like, there are also some really bad shots, which was just weird, especially coming from George Gallo as a director. Morgan Freeman's house that he sits in during the entire movie is gorgeous. And some of the other set designs are actually pretty cool too. There's an unexpected twist that I really liked, although I had to think about it and decide if I believed it or not, if it was just sort of hokey. You can be the judge of that. This is actually the very third time that director George Gallo has worked with Morgan Freeman after 2019 when he did The Poison Rose with John Travolta. I didn't like that movie that much, maybe more than this one. But then he also did The Comeback Trail, which I thought was actually really entertaining. It got better and better as the movie went along. So if you haven't seen that one, definitely check out my movie review for that one. All right, so on to some other things that I didn't like. There are so many times where lines are repeated unnecessarily. Like, we remembered those lines. You don't have to say them again and make it all dramatic and artsy fartsy. I was just kind of like, okay, yeah, enough of that. Let's get on to moving forward. There is an interesting color palette. There is a lot of blue and purple and even green in color grades. And I think that the director was trying to do something artsy fartsy, but it just doesn't quite work. It's just kind of odd. It looks like a college project or something like that. It just doesn't look polished somehow. A lot of the dialogue is terrible. A lot of the acting is terrible. There are some especially bad Southern accents that are terrible, that just kind of make you go, oh. And then there are some of the worst shooting villains ever in this movie. They're shooting at a lot of stuff and they miss everything. There's also a scene with a particular character where there's some bad plastic surgery going on that was sort of distracting, and a character that just seemed distracting in general. Some of the camera angles, as I mentioned, were creative and somewhat effective, but then there are also some really bad camera moments and editing moments that are just sort of strange and almost amateurish looking. There's also no contrast really between good and evil. You know, the saying about vanquishing evil is kind of what came to my mind when I saw the movie title. But there's just like a lot of evil. All of the characters, other than this one little girl, are evil. And even her, this little girl, is sick and she's got evil, you know, disease or whatever all over her. So there's no like redeeming character. However, again, there is a twist. And part of redemption, second chances, and trying to change the trajectory of your life is one of the themes. Let me tell you about some more of the themes that I thought and that I picked out. For example, revenge, family, loyalty, sacrifice. As I mentioned, second chances. And one of the things that I think the movie does get right is the great lengths that mothers will go to in order to protect their children. So speaking of children, let me give you some tips for parents. There are a lot of bloodied dead bodies with a pretty high body count, lots of violence with gore, crude language, profanity, and F-bombs. There's a scene in a club with prostitutes, and in that scene, there's a quick glance at an inappropriate image on a TV. And I'm like, we didn't need to see that. We get it. You're in a nasty club. You don't have to show us how nasty it is. But one thing I did like about that scene was Ruby Rose's character also glances at that screen and then says to the scumbags that are sitting there watching it, she goes, "Really?" And that actually made me laugh out loud. Then there is some very fast acting cocaine. So, and that's also a somewhat humorous scene as well. So there is some humor, which I always appreciate, even in dramas, just to balance out, you know, all of the heavy drama with something else. And it's not a slapstick comedy, that's for sure, but there's just a little bit of airiness amidst all of this action and drama and death and all of that kind of stuff. All right, so when I watch movies, I try to write down all of the funny lines or the interesting lines, and I share them on my website at moviereviewmom.com. So check out my website and you can see more of my review there. I'll share just a couple of them with you right now. So there's a character named Damon who's played by Morgan Freeman, and he says, "Is there any way to come back?" You know, he's trying to save his life as well. And a priest played by Bill Luckett says, "Are you serious?" You know, because Morgan Freeman's character has done some bad stuff. And then Morgan Freeman says, "I'm not sure, but it feels good to contemplate it." And I thought that that was an insightful and interesting conversation. Then later, Damon says, "Everybody has a price." And then later, Ruby Rose says to the priest, "What kind of a priest are you?" And he says, "I stopped being a priest a long time ago." Bum, bum, bum. And you learn a little bit more about him. Not a ton. There's not a whole lot of really depth in the backstories and all of that, but just enough to validate, I guess, the existence of all of the action and the craziness. The movie is not deep and profound, but there are some things worth thinking about. So for those reasons and more, ultimately, the movie review mom grade I'm going to give it is a D for don't bother. Now, having said that, if you are a big Morgan Freeman fan or Ruby Rose, like I am, you may still want to watch it. You will probably still find some moments that you think are entertaining, but I'm just giving you the heads up. This is not to the quality that we thought, or I thought that this movie would be. So that's disappointing. D for disappointing. All right, so let me give you some quick recommendations for some other movies that I thought of for various reasons. I'll explain. So the first movie I thought of is Peppermint. She, like Ruby Rose, is a woman, needs to dive into the gutter and deal with some trash that she finds there in order to get some justice. So it's not the best movie either. It has Jennifer Lawrence, so I pretty much watch anything that has Jennifer in it. So if you are a big fan too, you might want to watch that movie. And then this movie was something that I thought of, and you might laugh if you've seen this movie, knowing that I'm going to recommend this. But this is a movie with Chloe Grace Moretz called Shadow in the Cloud. Now, it takes place up in the sky rather than down in the gutter, but there are some interesting elements that I thought were similar. And not to give you any spoilers, but there's a representation of a mother who just kicks butt to protect her kids. And so that's very much like Ruby Rose's character. All right, that's it for my movie review today. I hope if you watch this movie that you do enjoy it. If you hate it, well, I told you so. When you get a minute, run over to my Facebook group and join us over there, because I'm always announcing special contests, giving away stuff, free books, other prizes, all kinds of things that I always forget to talk about here. So run over there and join us in the conversation and the fun and games. And thank you so much for supporting me here by subscribing, liking, commenting down below. All of those things help me to grow my channel. And thanks also for supporting me over at Patreon for those of you who are going over there. All right, that's it. Have an awesome day, and I will catch you in the next one. Bye for now.